Everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us to commemorate Victims of Communism Memorial Day. My name is Ashley Davis and I am Director of Development for the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. Each year on November 7th, the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation marks National Day for the Victims of Communism. This year, we are honored to host this commemoration in Atlanta, Georgia, what we hope to be the first of an annual tradition for Atlanta. Thank you to Rodney Mims Cook Jr. and his team at National Monuments Foundation for welcoming us to the beautiful Millennium Gate Museum. Our venue tonight is fitting. Opened in 2008, the Millennium Gate Museum was built to preserve and interpret Georgia history, art, culture, and philanthropic heritage. The city of Atlanta has called herself the Gate City of the South for well over a century, welcoming refugees from around the world. Today, we recognize the brave community members who have fought against communist regimes, past and present, many of whom fled communist regimes and sought freedom here in the United States. There are 10 states who have passed legislation to officially recognize November 7th as Victims of Communism Memorial Day. We commend Georgia for doing so through State House Resolution 588, which passed in March of 2023. For this evening's event, we will first hear from our distinguished speakers. Following the program, we will transition to the Roll Call of Nations ceremony, during which the names of 20 participating organizations will be called for them to lay a bouquet of flowers in honor of the victims of communism. We will end the evening with the reception downstairs, just down these steps here. I would like to begin our program by welcoming to the podium Rodney Mims Cook Jr., founder and president of the National Monuments Foundation, an organization focused on the development of civic and historic restoration projects, which led to the design and construction of the Millennium Gate Museum in Atlanta, obviously just above us here today. He has led many incredible design projects worldwide, including coordination of the design competition and construction of the Prince of Wales's World Athletes Monument for Atlanta's 1996 Olympic Games. His current projects include the development of 3 museum buildings and 18 monuments for Rodney Cook Senior Park, a rebuilt 19th century Olmsted-designed park in Atlanta, originally built by his family and now named after his father, a member of the Georgia House of Representatives in the 1960s and 70s. He's also a frequent speaker on urbanism. So with that, Rodney, I'll turn over the podium to you.
I'm going to hang on to this just in case. Welcome to the Millennium Gate. Jake, where are you? Just catch. We don't want Old Glory to fall. No, we don't. We certainly, no, I got this one. You get the other one. We are really honored to have all of you here. We got some old friends certainly and some new friends. And I see my old buddy Jose, who has told me some things about communist regimes that he's experienced personally that have chilled my blood. And now we're looking at it again with our greatest city. The events of this week have made such drastic adjustments to the American landscape and lexicon. And this event and this organization is all the more important to teach our young people just what they're facing. This is a crisis, and don't hesitate that it is not a crisis. And President Reagan, I think, said one. I don't think he said 2 generations. 1 generation is all it takes to lose this republic. We have lost 2 generations. And the only blessing I can say about COVID is that we figured out what they were teaching our children. And now we know it. And adjustments are being made. So I applaud Andrea, and her mother too. I mean, they're both my dear friends. And we welcome you home to the Millennium Gate, and we are delighted that we can do this with you and hope that it's a tradition of long-standing. Come again anytime. And also, other than Jake, who is a flag holder, Jake Kuniansky, he is head of our education department. And if, Gabrielle, if you don't mind, stand up. And she is running the office for me and has Polish background, so she will be leaving a bouquet of flowers representing Poland. So you may sit, thank you. And so I appreciate I'm not going to, Mr. Consul General, there's so many VIPs here, I can't possibly introduce everybody. I'll let others do that, but it's so good to see you. And I appreciate everyone being here, and I turn the microphone to whoever is coming next. Who is coming next? You are emceeing this.
Thank you. We'll keep an eye out. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rodney. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Eric Patterson, President and CEO of the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, which educates people about the millions killed and those still suffering under communist regimes through its one-of-a-kind museum, groundbreaking academic programs, policy-relevant research, and museum, and inspiring witness stories so the world will never forget. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Eric.
Well, thank you very much, Ashley, and I just want to say a huge thank you to our partners tonight, to Rodney Mims Cook Jr. and the National Monuments Foundation. Thank you for hosting us here. To Andrea Lauer Rice, a trustee of the Victims of Communism Foundation, and of course, as many of you know, the president of the Hungarian American Coalition. Dr. Perez, thank you. We're looking forward to your remarks later this evening. Well, as you know, today is Victims of Communism Day because it is the day that Lenin and his conspirators overthrew the new elected parliament in Russia and imposed the Soviet Union in its form of communism on the people of Russia. And then quickly thereafter attacked Poland, tried to set up a communist regime in Hungary. It all happened very, very quickly at the end of World War I. But I'd like to take you to a different November 7th for just a moment, and that is 35 years ago today. November 7th, 1990 was the last Soviet military parade. Do you remember those big parades? The General Secretary would be up in a box, the soldiers would goose step across Red Square, there'd be artillery, there'd be missiles, there'd be tanks, and the Soviet Union would be shaking its fist at the world. Hear us roar, look at our mighty power, this military colossus. But you know, it was all phony. That last military parade, just a few months later, the Soviet Union actually ceased to exist. In that year, between November of 1989 and November of 1990, going into that last parade, all of the countries of Eastern Europe threw off their communist overlords. None of them voted to put the communists back in power. Not in Poland, not in Latvia, not in Lithuania, none of them. None of them looked to the Soviet Union. So that last parade, as the Soviets were trumpeting the power of communism, it was a reminder to us of just how bankrupt they were. Now, do you remember, for those of us who are a little bit older here tonight, what else was happening in November of 1990? At the United Nations, the world was trying to figure out how to deal with Saddam Hussein having gobbled up his neighbor Kuwait. And the United States and many others came to a resolution in November of 1990 that if necessary they would use military force to expel Saddam Hussein from Kuwait. What about all that Soviet hardware? It was useless. It was totally useless as a force for world peace and security. And that's what communism is like. It uses its guns and tanks and walls to keep its own people in, to repress its own people. It's ideologically bankrupt, it's philosophically bankrupt, and literally by that point in time, they couldn't even pay their own soldiers. And so we have much today, looking at our own time and ahead, 100 million people to commemorate who were murdered by communism in the past, but also the chance to assemble and to say, we won't stand for it in places like Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua and North Korea and China. We have hope for a change in the world as we see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Now I'd like to introduce Andrea Lauer Rice, who has served as president of the Hungarian American Coalition, the community's largest umbrella organization, for the past 8 years. From 2019 to 2023, she was the U.S. Regional Diaspora President, representing the American Hungarian community to Hungary. She is co-founder of Memory Project, an award-winning collection of 150 videos based on life stories of Hungarians who immigrated to the U.S., especially those following the Hungarian Revolution of 1956. She is the proud daughter and granddaughter of 56ers, and I know we'll hear a bit more about her family's story tonight. And she's created numerous multimedia projects to teach the next generation about the 1956 revolution and the evils of communism, including leading the charge to create a 14-foot freedom fighter statue in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, just beyond us here. So please be sure to take a look at the freedom fighter statue, and we'll have a procession to the statue just after this program. We at the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation are proud to have Andrea as a member of our Board of Trustees, and so with that, I'll turn it over to you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us for braving rush hour traffic on a Friday evening and the possible weather issues we had. I'm so heartened to see so many representatives here, honorary consuls and ethnic organizations represented tonight at our inaugural VOC Roll Call of Nations in Atlanta. It's already been mentioned several times, but we all hope this is the first of many annual events. There are certainly many of us who have been who can attest to the evils of communism and would like to remember those who were touched by it. Thank you, Rodney and the team, for hosting us at the incredible Millennium Gate. Thank you, Eric and Ashley, for traveling to Atlanta for this special evening. Every one of us here tonight, oh, hello, I feel like this is symbolic. I'm just gonna wrap myself up in the flag here. Every one of us here tonight has experienced firsthand or been influenced by, or in my case, raised by someone deeply affected by the horrific ideology of communism. My mother escaped Hungary with her family after the Hungarian Revolution of 1956 was brutally defeated. Every family member was involved in fighting for their freedom in some way. My grandmother tended to wounded freedom fighters in the back of her pharmacy on Morisigmond Körtér in Budapest. My grandfather and 14-year-old mother made cobblestone barricades to block the tanks. My 17-year-old aunt made Molotov cocktails from the pharmacy's alcohol supply and gave them to her classmates. It all started on October 23rd, 1956, under a blue sky with so much hope. They stayed until all hope was gone and the Russians had crushed the revolution on November 4th. With 200,000 other Hungarians, they fled and eventually made it to the United States, where they began a new life. I grew up hearing those stories of life under communism and learning the lessons from my grandparents and my mother to be informed, to stay active, to vote, to get the highest level of education you possibly can, because even in the darkest days, no one can take away your knowledge or your faith. And above all else, fight for your freedom. The Millennium Gate Park is special to me because 2 years ago we put up the 1956 Freedom Fighter statue here. She is a composite of several female freedom fighters, including my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother, and she stands across the way from a Cuban freedom fighter. So this is indeed the perfect location for the event this evening, showcasing freedom fighters who rose up against communism across the world from one another. Our hope is that this statue, along with events like this, serve as a reminder of the dangers of the dark communist ideology, and how, as Ronald Reagan famously said, thank you for that intro there, Rodney, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for and protected and handed on for them to do the same. On Tuesday of this week, as Rodney already referenced, we were once again reminded of just how fragile democracy can be. In disbelief, we watched Zoran Mondani, a self-proclaimed socialist, some would say communist, elected as mayor of the largest city in America, accounting for nearly 9% of the U.S. economy. Just a few years ago, that would have been unthinkable, and it left me scratching my head. How could this happen? That is exactly why events like this are so very important. That is why we build statues, why we share stories, why we create curriculum, and why we pass legislation to compel schools to teach about the evils of communism. I am a proud member of the board of VOC, as Ashley said. On a board call just yesterday, I learned that there is a single Chinese character with two meanings: danger and opportunity. That is the perfect metaphor for this moment. Instead of just being horrified by the New York election results, we can look at it as an opportunity to teach the next generation that this ideology is an anathema to our American values. In America, we believe in freedom. We believe in capitalism. We believe in opportunity, and that is what we fight for. So tonight, we come together to honor the victims of communism, and tomorrow we roll up our sleeves, for there is more work to be done, and this is a fight we must win. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I'm now pleased to introduce Jose Perez. Jose Perez was born in Cuba and moved to Key West at age 12 to escape Castro's regime. He's the retired president of Target Market Trends, a consulting firm he founded in 2002. He also spent 25 years at Bell South in various management roles and worked as an international consultant with Gartner. From 2004 to 2011, he served on the Board of Education and held leadership positions with the National Association of State Boards of Education and State Charter School Commission. He served as regent for the University System of Georgia from 2019 to 2024 and is currently the 4th District Representative for the Georgia Department of Economic Development. So Jose, welcome.
Wow, you did your work. I didn't send that bio in. My goodness, thank you, thank you. You are Andrea, you're a hard act to follow, okay? I want to stand here and say, fight, fight, fight. You've seen that before someplace, haven't you? Good evening to everyone. Thank you for coming. I think this is so important that, can you hear me okay? I wear hearing aids, and when I think I'm loud, I'm not at all, so okay, good. So it is a pleasure. Where is Rodney? Behind me. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's a good picture. Thank you to Rodney for holding us here. And Rodney was also very helpful in getting our Cuban Patriot up as well when I knocked on many, many doors trying to erect it, and it was a time when many people were actually tearing down statues, and no one wanted to commit. Most politicians didn't want, not in my city. I don't want this, I don't want that. And he was the one that immediately said, yeah, this is the gateway to the future. We want to bring it here, and here we are, and the next step of what it is that we need to do. So we have over here our friends that were the Cubans like me. We came young, and we call ourselves 0.5s. You know, you have first generations, you have immigrants, and we're sort of halfway in between, because the fact is that we came young, so most of our education has been here. So we can tell jokes in English and laugh, and we can tell jokes in Spanish, and sometimes even translate them across, and we still laugh at each other's jokes. Usually when you tell an American a Cuban joke and you translate it, they go, not funny at all. So anyway, as an economist, I have numbers. So forgive me for that, but I gotta say them. Okay, in the 50s, Cuba was actually one of the richest countries in Latin America and had a higher GDP per capita than Georgia. We are here in Georgia. Cuba had a higher GDP. It's also a relatively large island Although when you use the term island, we kind of think of the Bahamas. You know, you go to Nassau or whatever, a little tiny thing, or Key West, 3x5, that's an island. Cuba, if you superimpose it over Florida and Georgia, you're 20 miles from Tennessee. It's that long. Does that give you a sense? Okay, there were 6 million Cubans when Castro came in, and virtually 1.3 million have left the country. Now, who left the country? The ideal, and I think they've learned, so they move a little slower. So I don't expect New York to move very fast. Castro moved in very fast. It was awful in the sense that I was a kid in 6th grade, and I saw them come in, and mobs went and shot others, and just went into homes and killed the people, stole their goods. And here I am, a 12-year-old, watching this happen, and I can still see it vividly. Then he came in, Castro, and he said, that one should be guilty, that one is guilty. Then they set up kangaroo courts, and they condemned him, and they shot him, and they to the firing squad, and they televised him. So this little kid watched it on TV, and we saw these people just rolled over and fall dead. You go, that doesn't leave your mind as a young man, probably as an older person either, but nevertheless, there was that kind of intimidation. It became the rule of the land. If you do anything against us, you're going to get shot. Immediately they began to institute neighborhood watch, not in the way that we think of them here. Okay, they were watching you, not the robbers. They were watching you, and if you said anything against the revolution, the government, then they would turn you in, and they could knock on your door. No due diligence. They just take you in, and maybe they would see you again, maybe not. So it was anybody's guess. Then, I was 12, so then the rumor began running through the island that Castro next was going to institute a army duty, a draft, so to speak, age at 13. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and my parents said, you're leaving. Now, the other story that I want to tell you about is, in Cuba we had a lot of, and I was sharing it with some of my Chinese friends from the press. In Cuba we had a lot of Chinese people, and many of them had left China during Mao. And I remember also as a little kid, around the kitchen table, my parents speaking to our Chinese neighbors. And my Chinese neighbors were saying, that guy in the mountains, he was speaking through the radio. He had not come in yet, clandestine radio. And he was speaking about this and that and the other, and they said to him, sounds just like Mao. That's the way Mao was selling communism before he came in too. It's in my father, I remember that distinctly. My father said, no, that cannot happen here. What do you guys say? It cannot happen here? No, we have it in New York. That's what my father said. No, it can't happen here. We have the Constitution, we have the president, we have this, we have the other, and it was all patterned right after the American Constitution. It was identical. Even the Capitol in Cuba is just like the American Capitol. And it happened with a vengeance. And there's, I don't know, I mean, I lost track. I went to Key West. My parents stayed behind. My father was finally out in 5 years. In between, there was the Bay of Pigs, where they picked up most of my family and put them in jail. And my dad was hiding in places until he got out. And I was a junior in high school. And we were able to negotiate, or he was able to negotiate, a government apartment. Government apartment. So my father was washing dishes. My mother was cleaning hotel rooms. I was working full-time, not full-time, part-time after school, but many hours at a theater. So I got there at 4 and left at 11. Yeah, that's almost a full-time. 7 days a week. We made tamales. My mother was a great cook, made tamales, and then we sold them. And I distributed on the weekends, on the Sundays, and all that. And we had nicknames. Key West, a lot of Cuban families there, and of course my name is Jose. And the Jose's in Spanish, they're called Pepes. So my name became Pepe el Tamalero. The guy that sold tamales. So we all had Pepe Descarado, there's Juanito Factura, all the names associated with young people in our community, in our culture. And it was fun that way. I am so happy to be an American. I consider myself, and we raised our kids. Yolanda is back there. Yolanda and I raised our kids to be in the mainstream. The fact that I worked for Bell South got me out of Miami to here, and I'm delighted to be here. We were able to raise our kids, I think, better than in Miami. The drugs were crazy there at the time, and we thought it would be better here. And it's been perfect. Our kids are mainstream. I have one over here, one that couldn't make it, and the other two, the daughter and husband, are in New York City. Imagine that. So I just cannot imagine how that happened. But it's free stuff. So I ended up as an adjunct running my company, and I was on the board of Georgia Gwinnett College, and I said, let me get to the students, let me teach them. So I joined as an adjunct, and often during the class I did many different things associated with, again, supply and demand and opportunity cost. And I think we need to teach our legislators economics, because some of the things that I see coming, it's just beyond me. But anyway, in class, I often ask the kids, okay, how many of you want free things? And, they all wanted free things. Isn't it? Okay, how many of you are willing to pay the others for free things? No hands went up. Now, that's simple, isn't it? Isn't that simple to understand? Tax the rich. The rich are the ones that have precisely the power to move away. The poor are the ones that are trapped. They can't afford it. So in what mind does it fit that I can just make those people pay? I'll force them to pay. It's in history. They move. 1.3 million Cubans moved. These are the capitalists that were in Cuba. These were the people that ran companies that were successful companies. And what happened? They moved. And somehow, in Fidel, by the way, was also 32 when he took over. And he had never worked either. His father was supporting, even with kids. It's almost like deja vu. It is actually very scary to me. And I fret over that because until you walk in somebody's moccasins, you don't really understand it. I invited the Speaker of the House. I spoke to the governor. I invited many others. They don't see it as urgent. I do. We need to get this going. It needs to be urgent. Perhaps now, with what happened in New York, more of us will understand. Now, Dr. Trammell, where are you? Dr. Trammell helped me 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I went and spoke to him. Dr. Trammell chairs the, I always get your title mixed up, this civics board, essentially. So he develops and oversees curriculum and everything else for civics in our state. So I went and approached him with the idea of establishing a curriculum that teaches about communism at the state level. And he helped me get the Board of Education to pass it. And they passed it unanimously, and it's being taught. So that was an achievement. So the second thing is that I wanted it to be coded. Coded is a secret name. Coded means that they write it into law to make it difficult to change. So the curriculum is there, is developed, is being taught, and all I want is for it to be passed in our legislature. And it doesn't make it a committee because there are other things that are more urgent. And I keep indicating and say, wait a moment, when is the right time to plant a tree? 20 years ago, right? Well, we didn't do it. So when is the right time to plant a tree? Go ahead, give me a guess. How about mañana? Right? Let's do it tomorrow. Let's get it done. Ray Martinez is a good friend. He's a legislator that for the last 3 years he has actually battled. He passed this resolution, and the last one was on 25. So he's passed it for 23, 24, 25. Maybe 26 will do it. So, and I'm putting more pressure on him because of Mandami. So yes, you're absolutely correct. Okay, so this is an awful, awful thing that is presenting an opportunity, and we're prepared for it. So if we work hard, and all of you can help me, and by the way, Dr. Trammell is also a candidate for superintendent of schools in Georgia. So with that, I thank you so much, and I'm sorry I wrote this to read from, and of course I haven't. But you get emotional when you get up here, and you heard what I had to say pretty much. So bottom line is that I came here as a refugee, but in reality, this is my home. I even don't put Cuba when I put my profile as my home, because if I were to go back there, you know, it just wouldn't be home anymore. I wouldn't recognize half this stuff. I wouldn't even probably connect with the people, etc. And I found a country that strives, that's the key word, strives. And I wish I had better light. And now that I'm reading, to protect the rights and the freedoms of our people. And I'm grateful every day when I wake up for the chance to live in a place where liberty is not just a word, it's a way of life. As we make more of Communism Memorial an annual tradition here in our city, let's commit to telling the truth about communism. Okay? We all need to connect, make sure that we carry forth and tell others. Okay. Let us honor the victims, not just with words, but with action, with education, with remembrance, and a renewed dedication to liberty. I really live, and Yolanda can attest that even with the most liberals, even with the crazy ideas, I would listen to them. I would not shy from an argument, but I'm reasoned. You know, maybe in some cases, too reasoned. Too reasonable to listen to them. Anyway, I'm over here wondering, and I believe we've got wine and hors d'oeuvres waiting for us. So thank you very much, and we may never forget those who suffered, and may we always cherish, please, the freedom that we have. Thank you.
Is an award-winning author of 16 books for young readers, including The Rooster Who Would Not Be Quiet, Martina the Beautiful Cockroach, Rita and Ralph's Rotten Day, 14 Cows for America, which is a New York Times bestseller, and The Peanut Man, which was selected by Georgia's Center for the Book to represent Georgia at the Library of Congress's National Book Festival for 2025. And just as an aside, I have young children, and we love reading all of Carmen's books to our children, so they have wonderful lessons in them. Her personal stories first appeared on NPR's National Book Festival, NPR's All Things Considered. Funny, insightful, and frequently irreverent, Dee Dee's narratives are culled from her childhood as a Cuban refugee in Decatur, Georgia. She hosts the 4-time Emmy-winning children's program, Love That Book. Dee Dee is also an accomplished lecturer, having been a guest speaker for the Library of Congress, Columbia University, the TED and TEDx Conference, and the Kennedy Center, among other distinguished venues. An editor and lifelong advocate for libraries, she previously served on the advisory board of the Smithsonian Libraries and Archives. So Carmen, please welcome.
Hola, y'all. I can say that because, and by the way, we do have hors d'oeuvres, and we have, more importantly, we have a ceremony. So blessed are the brief. I came to this country as a little girl. Cuando yo vine a los Estados Unidos, yo tenía 3 años y no hablaba ni papa de inglés. And what that means is, when I come to this country, I was 3 years old, and I did not speak one potato of English. And because we have an international group tonight, you know how translations can be so very funny. Translating your life is not so funny. 30-second history lesson. 1959, the revolution. Batista had, in truth, been a dictator. As Cubans will say, esas brisas trajeron estas tempestades. Those breezes brought us these tempests. So we must act wisely. Then came 61. Everything started to batten down. I was born in 60. 62, you remember? Anybody? Cuban Missile Crisis. 63. You see, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the entire country, the entire world watched as Khrushchev and JFK played an international game of who'll blink first. And we dodged a bullet. The entire world took a collective breath. But Kennedy did not dodge that bullet. And within a year, he was gone. That was the year we left. I came here, and we began again. My papi was an accountant in Havana, a guajiro, a man of the country who learned to read at 14. I don't say that with any shame at all. He is an extraordinary man. And this is a story I want to tell you. It's about 2 minutes long. I loved when all the Cubanos, the refugees, would get together and tell stories. When a lot of my friends would go out and play and the younger ones would fall asleep, I would get under the table so I could listen. Because I wanted to better understand what had happened to us. And then one day I heard a story. One of our friends, Francisco, I won't tell you his last name for his family's sake. Alemán, actually, he was very brave. His brother had gotten involved right after Fidel came to power with some resistance, some of the resistance. And one night, in the middle of the night, as is often the case with tyrants, they send their minions out when families are asleep. They broke down the door. They woke Francisco Paco and his wife Sonia. They had 2 little children. The smallest one hid under the bed so they didn't see him. The other one, who was about 6 or 7, they put a machine gun to his head. And I'm not telling you all stories you don't already know. I see you nodding your heads. But this is going somewhere. Glacially, but it's going. They told Paco, "Where's your brother?" They asked him. ¿Dónde está? Where's your brother? He said, "I don't know where my brother is." They said, "We will shoot him right here. And then we will shoot your wife, and then we will shoot you." And Paco had to make a decision. This is the kind of indecent brutality we're fighting. And he said, "I'll tell you, I'll take you to him." Now remember, I'm a little girl under the table listening to this. They took Paco in a jeep out to El Campo, to the country, where his brother was. I took this story from Paco when I and my sister asked the Humanities Council to give us a grant before these people died. When Paco told the story when I was an adult, and I heard it for the second time, he said, "Carmita, they took me in this house in the back room, and my brother was tied to a chair. They had beaten him to a pulp. They knew where he was all along. They started to laugh, and one of them said to his brother, 'See, we told you he would betray you. Now tell us where your friends are.'" I remember going to my father when I was much older, a teenager, and this is the story. It's 2 minutes. I said, "Papi, I don't know that you know this, but I listened to a lot of the stories when I was little, and a lot of times I would get under la mesa, the table, and I remember this story that Paco told. And Papi, it stayed with me forever. And because I was a teenager and I was an idiot, because they're young, they don't know. I said, Papi, you shouldn't have let us hear some of those stories." And my father, being a Cuban guajiro, said, "Siéntate, sit down. Did I ever tell you about the tocorroco?" "The what?" "The tocorroco. It's a Cuban bird." I said, "No, Papi, what does this have to do with anything? Just listen, it's really short." It's never really short with Cubans. But it was short. He said, "The tocorroco is a bird that came from Mozambique to Cuba. It's a very strange bird, because if you put him in a cage, if you deny him freedom of flight, he will not eat, he will not drink, and he will die." I said, I've never heard this. Many birds died when the country was first colonized, and then they learned they could not ensnare the birds. They could not put them in cages because they would die. And so all the other birds won their freedom because a few birds were willing to die. And then my dad said to me, "But a few decades passed and nobody told the story. And so they began to ensnare and capture the birds again. And then those birds had to die. And once again, the birds were free. It will not be very long before the hunters come again. The price of freedom is dearly bought and easily forgotten if we do not tell the stories. That is why New York, a city of trees, voted for an axe. We need to tell the story to our children." Gracias.
Thank you so much, Carmen. I couldn't think of a better way to end our panelists' remarks for this evening. We are now going to transition to our floral ceremony. As many of you might know, this is a ceremony that we host every year in Washington, D.C. at our Victims of Communism Memorial. We have hosted this ceremony every year since the memorial was dedicated in 2007. So we are honored to host this ceremony for the first time here in Atlanta. And I'm going to have our president and CEO, Eric Patterson, be the first to lay a bouquet just to give an idea of how we typically process with the ceremony. So if everyone who is participating by laying either a bouquet or a wreath, if you could please line up over here on this side of the stage, that would be wonderful, and then we will progress with the ceremony. Thank you. While you're getting lined up, I will just share one other piece of logistical information. So we do ask that each group of Estonia and Atlanta and Estonian American National Council.
I'm going to flip these around so the flowers are facing front. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Stop.
Honorary Consulate of Latvia to Georgia. Honorary Consulate of Ukraine in Atlanta, Georgia. Hungarian American Coalition. Marti Historical Society. You can, yes, just here. In honor of the people of Poland. Royal Danish Consulate. Royal Lao Veteran Association of Georgia. Union for Lao Nation. Vietnamese American Community of Georgia. Vietnamese Women's Association of Georgia. And finally, National Monuments Foundation and Millennium Gate Museum, who will lay their wreath in front of the Hungarian freedom fighter statue. With that, we will close our formal program here. Please join us for a reception downstairs. You can make your way through these stairs here, and we also have an elevator accessible if needed. So thank you all very much for joining us this evening.